Hi there, I'm Oliver, founder of Wildya, and we help to create impact millionaires. Not people who chase zeros on their bank account, but people who want to rewild 1 million bison, restore 1 million corals, or remove 1 million kilograms of plastic from our ocean. Now, the problem with people who run nature NGOs or nature companies or want to start one is that there's not that much support out there. If you want to get rich quickly, there's tons of it, like books, YouTube channels, ChatGPTs, podcasts, entire spectrum. But how to rewild 1 million bison? How do you even get started? How can you do this? How can you scale this? Nothing there. So we decided to create that ecosystem to support you to get there. We do this via 3 things. First, we build a community because we really believe we can't compete with each other. We have to collaborate with one another. So we bring people together who are building in the nature space and who want to become impact millionaires. We bring in experienced impact millionaires or people who are on a good path to become impact millionaires to give masterclasses so that we can have practical guidance of how we can maybe pull this off. We put funding opportunities there. We put blueprints, every possible thing that we could find to make your life a bit easier. We also created, and that's the second part, boot camps. A boot camp that helps you to get from idea to your first supporters in just 8 weeks. So really everything I wish I would have had as soon as I started my impact millionaire journey. And third, we help on a one-to-one basis. When people really want to work with my co-founder Michelle or with me, then we help them on one-to-one side, on consult them or execute for them if they have some issues with their product or with their business aspect of things. Because here's the thing. In our nature bubble, we know the problems, we know the solutions, but quite often we have challenges with the business side of things. And so we really believe that we can tackle those the most, and that's where we can help the most. Now, if you find this interesting, if you want to become an impact millionaire, or you just want to keep up to date what we're up to, then please feel free to go on wildya.earth to check out more, and let's get cracking and build a wider world together. Ciao.
Hello and welcome back to Story Planet Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Cole. So today I'm joined by Oliver Dauret, who is the founder of Wildya, who's going to be joining us today to tell us about some of the work that he's been involved with. So first of all, thank you, Oliver, for giving us some of your time. You start by telling us a little bit about your background and then how Wildya got started.
Yeah, thank you so much, first of all, for the opportunity, Jack. Really appreciate it that you invited me to speak to your community. So hi, everybody. I'm Oliver. I'm originally from Berlin. Always grew up loving nature. When I was 5, I asked my mom to dress me up as an elephant seal for carnival, just that you can paint a picture of how much of a nature nerd I was from a young age. Classic story then. High school times, you kind of lose a bit the touch and the passion for nature because there's other things that get more important, like soccer and parties and so forth. Fast forward to my graduation. Afterwards, I needed to decide, okay, what do I want to do with my life? Went to Australia because I didn't really have an answer. Traveled, worked in cleaning hostel rooms and bathrooms in Sydney. It was doing waitering in Bondi Beach and all of that. So really learned to appreciate hard work. And coming back to Germany, had to make a decision. What do I want to do? Do I want to study something around ecology, zoology, marine biology, something that I was really kind of feeling eager to pursue? Or do I maybe study business? Why business? Because in my reflection back then, businesses are in the power triangle of government, citizens, and corporates. I believe they have the biggest power, and they're one of the biggest reasons that will be decisive of, do we going to lose entirely nature, or can we actually recover nature? And so I wanted to study, in the end, business. I decided on business because back then a lot of people were not really listening to the science. Fast forward, I think they still don't necessarily do, but I really wanted to understand, okay, how does this entire system work? How does the wheel spin, so to say, to understand, okay, how can we intervene? What are the techniques that they're using? How, for example, does a fashion brand sell us plastic shoes and kind of envisions us that, if we buy this plastic shoe, we're going to become a top athlete, So they're clearly doing things really good. How can we use the same sort of tools, tricks, best practices to actually get people really excited about nature again? So yeah, I decided to study business, and again, lost myself a bit because now you're surrounded by business people 24/7. So it was working then in e-commerce, mobility, travel tech, and wherever I was working, I realized nature is really not the top priority, even though all of the different business models, they are dependent on nature. And sooner or later, I just said, like, I can't keep on doing this. Like in the end, there was COVID crisis. I was locked up in my flat, and I looked at my life and the person that I wanted to become, this kind of nature enthusiast and that puts everything on the line on nature, was just not true. It was just a fiction in my head. I didn't spend time in nature. I didn't read about nature. I didn't watch nature documentaries. My work was not in nature. So I said, like, okay, enough. Can't do this anymore. And so the first spark of Wildya started back in COVID. Initially, we wanted to build an app that helps to connect people with nature while improving their mental well-being. Turned out 1.5 years in that nobody wants this except me, or at least we didn't find the people. And then we pivoted towards a bit more of an action community for biodiversity. We realized, yes, there's something there, but it's still too broad. It's very different if you want to rewild your garden than if you want to get like a corporate to nature positive, to if you're working on policy, to if you're working on creating a nature NGO. So we did kind of looked around at the community, looked like who did we help the most in the past month, and we came kind of to the conclusion we help most the people that are actually leading nature NGOs and nature businesses, because they are the ones in the front lines and they need more support. They need more resources. They need more best practices. They need to get more attention because they already have it figured out. They know the problem. They know the solution. Quite often, they just don't get the attention, the resources that they need in order to really scale the impact.
Brilliant. Okay, that brings us on nicely to what is the overall ethos and vision for Wildya?
So overall, we want to become the Y Combinator for nature, so to say. So for people that don't know what the Y Combinator is, it's the home that kind of started like projects like Airbnb, Stripe, Reddit. A lot of the tools that you kind of use on a daily basis, they started there. A bit like the challenge where we would like to iterate on their model is that it's very capitalistic still. So it's very focused on how can we maximize profit and how can we use tech in order to do so. And we believe tech is one of the tools that we can use, but we want to keep it broader. Plus, we think we shouldn't optimize for profit, but we should maximize for impact. Like in the end, I think we should all be judged by, to leave the world a bit better behind as an individual, as same as a government official, as the same as a business. And I think right now we don't really do a good job on this. So I said, like, okay, let's try to create a support system that instead of maximizing for profit, we maximizing for nature impact. And how can that look like? Because right now you have like ChatGPT, you have YouTube channels, you have podcasts, books, everything about like how to get you rich as fast as possible. But there's almost nothing of like, if you want to, how do I restore coral reef? How do I recreate a kelp forest? How do I rewild bison and, make this my 24/7 gig? There's nothing around that. And so we said, okay, let's try to step by step create the support system so that in the end, the people don't always have to start from scratch and they have somebody in their corner that fights with them.
And more specifically, so how would it work? And it'd be quite nice at this stage to hear perhaps some case studies, some direct examples of where you've taken the basics of an organization, an individual, and then taking on to make these impacts that you're talking about.
Yeah, sure. So we have 3 ways of how we're doing this. So the first one was really easy. That's one what we started with was simply consulting and executing. So if people wanted to work with us on a one-to-one basis, if I say we, my co-founder is Michelle. She's really great in products. I'm more of a business person. And we were just helping people on a one-to-one basis. That's what we started with. But the problem with that is like, that's really great. You can really go deep. So for example, we were working now over the past year with a peatland organization that is doing fantastic work, Mission to Marsh, fantastic work on peatland restoration. And it's really great to help them and to really scale their impact. But the problem is you always work with one. And so how can we create the systems so that we can help more of these organizations at the same time while also reducing the entry barrier? Because of course, if I work on a one-to-one basis with you, the price is not going to be the same as if I have some sort of other ways of how to do that. So we created 2 different kind of solutions for people. One is a boot camp that we're running. Within 8 weeks, we take people from, hey, you have an idea or you want to create something for nature. can be an NGO, can be a company, and we get you within 8 weeks to your first real supporters. So we give you all the structure, we give you kind of nature positive business model canvas, we look at your product, we help you to how you can create attention, all of that stuff. So we really take you through the bootcamp that I wish I would have had when I started, because nobody gave me something like this. So it took me like almost like 3 years to get to the same insights that I kind of pressed in together into 8 weeks now. That's the second thing. And the last thing that we built is we built a community. For us, it was really important to create a community where people that are building in that space can come together to share best practices, to learn from each other. We have master classes there where experienced ecopreneurs are coming in and share a bit like their journey of like, this clearly didn't work, and this is why it didn't work, and this is how we fixed it, and where they share their wins and where they share like the problem that they're trying to solve and so forth. And so we try to do that. We put in their funding opportunities, everything that kind of we can productize, so to say, of like the knowledge that I constantly see on a daily basis. I try to productize it so that in the end we can help more people, no matter if they're doing restoration work in Pakistan, if they're doing protection initiatives in Ecuador, or if they try to rewild something in Ethiopia.
Brilliant. And could you give some specific organizations or some of these individuals so who comes to mind when you're thinking, going through this process? As you say, you spent 3 years kind of bringing together all these things yourself. Yeah. So what might be some maybe it's a species in particular that comes to mind, that you got this boot camp together, you put them through 8 weeks and you've seen it work?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Like in the end, like we pivoted towards like really serving the ecopreneurs this summer. So you know, like how it is when you start with your nature venture, we started with a mental health app, you know. So that was like 3 years ago, and then step by step, you try to figure out what people actually want and how you can actually help in your specific case, how you can help the most. And I just realized it was always a bit this kind of skill of mine to speak biodiversity, but also speak business. And I think in the end, I really came to my senses and sort of realized, okay, this is where I can help the movement the most. And so that actually just started this summer. So the bootcamp that I'm referring to, we just had our first graduation. So just like 2 weeks ago, we had the first, we had like 10 people in there, but 6 decided to also pitch in the end. So we had like 6 people that were pitching the solutions. So I can only talk, let's say, about the 6. It was really fantastic to see like how far they grew. So like one is, for example, Natalie. She came with a really strong idea to rewild Catalonia. And so then it's about like, how do you do that? And how do you approach it? And how can you sequence this? Because maybe you don't going to start all at once, but you need to be a bit smart of like, okay, what is your strategic? What are the skills that you have? What do you have right now? Which context do you have? And yeah, she's really, really good on track to start rewilding next year. Her first square meters, so she's already looking at land now and so forth. So it was really great to see, because now she has really like everything that she needs in order to make this happen. We had like Ovi, who's like working on trying to rewild, especially like backyards of people, because quite often like there's just lawn and there's nothing happening there, not really nature. People are very disconnected, even from their garden. And so he said like, hey, this could be a really great activity that you can do with the kids to get them off screens, and at the same time you will have life again around you, not just like green grass. Or like Dennis, who has like something very out of the box. So I'm really excited like how this is going to go next year, is that he wants to create an alternative for zoos. Right now, the problem with zoos is like people that love nature with zoos and aquariums.
Oh, Zeus, sorry. The Greek god Zeus. I was like, okay. Well, that's quite
yeah. And, Zeus, yeah. He, for example, he wants to create a substitute for that, because yes, you want to see the animal, but at the same time, is the animal that is in this cage really the animal? Is it like really like how it would behave in nature and so forth? And we know by now that it's not. And so how can we create still a nature experience, but something that doesn't necessarily involve the pain for the animal? And so he's thinking about this kind of digital immersive experiences that people can go to. And so he's going to do the pilot of that next year. So like really tons of like different aspects of how you can build back a wilder world. So that was a bit on the boot camp. And on the one-to-one side, we work with with the peatland organization, as I mentioned, with Mission to Marsh. We were working with Time, This Is My Earth, who are like protecting diversity hotspots around the world and trying to create a system where people can even just like donate one euro, $1 and so forth, and that's already starting to protecting forest in the Amazon and so forth. So we often help people to improve. There's 4 levers that I see in order to increase the impact, which is product, attention, money, and people. As soon as you tackle those 4, usually your impact scales. And so our job is within the one-to-one, within the bootcamp, within the community, how can we have more people to improve those 4 levers? Because if they tackle those 4 levers, then the impact will scale. And so our entire job is about like making this happen and making that easier.
We touched on this before the recording, that there's so much motivation out there, so many young people, well, often young people with such great ideas. What do you think is the kind of the weaknesses in this space in terms of, recreating that into actual action, actual ideas, and pushing things forward? Because there's so much, as I say, such motivation out there to fix things, and lots of young, inspired people. And you mentioned you started a mental health app. So there's lots of anxiety, climate anxiety. So what do you think, first of all, some of the weaknesses, and how can we sort of bring this network together forward? And do you think that in some ways is actually what Wildya is doing?
Yeah. I mean, that's at least what I hope. So, like in the end, you always have to reflect on your own life. And for example, I know that I'm very impact driven. So in the end, all my decisions, they're always driven by, okay, how can I scale my impact to the maximum? That's how I don't say that this is the right way to live. It's just like I know that my happiness is the greatest if I have like the biggest possible impact. And so I always look, and I think Wildya is this vehicle to do so. Now, what the problem in this entire space is, if you look at from a let's take it first from a top level, and then let's go really to the root cause. But from the top level, it's money. So like in the end, money is the challenge, because in the end, if we would throw just a friction of the money that we throw at AI, that we throw at all these kind of fancy products and so forth, even if we just like throw just a percentage on that on nature, we wouldn't have a lot of the kind of the following effects that you see now. Even in the nature space, it's actually surprisingly a bit competitive. The people are really nice, and I think we're all like in the same boat, and we try to achieve the same thing. But because there's such a lack of money, there's even a bit of competitiveness for resources, And so there's not a lot of like best practice sharing and like, hey guys, here there's a new call for grants and so forth, and I'm sent this to some other nature ventures. No, because you are so resource deprived that in the end you think like, no, I need to keep this for me, because otherwise my chances are not as high and so forth. So this money pressure is really severe. So I think one of the best actions that we really can do as a community is to think of like, okay, how can we bring more money into that space? Because we want to have a regenerative world, but we're living in a capitalistic one. And unless there's kind of a hard button push of a reset where we just like, 2027, there was this massive event, and that was kind of the hard cut. We won't really have the hard cut. We will have a transition. And so how do we do this transition? And we need to understand the capitalistic language, use it for the time being to create some milestones, and then we can, towards our dream of regenerative, nature positive world, we're not going to get there within a year. So we need to be very strategical of like, hey, this is not the end destination. But for now, for example, to make it a bit more concrete, a price tag on nature. Everybody that loves nature feels like, why is a whale 100,000, 500,000, or million worth? Like they have a right to exist without the price tag on it. But that price tag at least will help, hopefully, that there will be more money flowing towards them, because people realize, oh man, then there's a financial value. We speak the financial language, and now they maybe get the protection and the restoration that they really deserve and that they need. So, and just understanding that this is just a time lapse, and we hopefully get there where people say like, this species has a right to exist, no matter if we see it, no matter if we give it a price tag, no matter if, but step by step by step. So bringing money into the space is like the biggest challenge. And that, to come to the really root cause, is like, it's our disconnection from nature. In the end, if you look in most cities where a lot of the decision, where a lot of the consumption is happening, good luck finding nature, So like, how do people, if you go in the supermarket, no nature. You just like take things out and you just like put them into the can, whatever you don't use. A lot of cities don't have like any nature aspect in them, So how can there be a connection for nature? And as soon as there's no connection to nature, there's no emotional attachment. As soon as there's no emotional attachment, it's much easier to destroy. As soon as we reconnect to nature and see like the value of everything that it provides for us, it becomes a different story. So that's the deeper answer.
No, that's brilliant. That's incredibly insightful and interesting. Okay, so back to Wildya specifically, how would you like to see things develop in the coming years over any given time scale? Like maybe next year you've got specific plans in 5 years. How would you like to see things trend?
Yeah, so for me personally, I really like one-to-one work, but like personally, I really, really like this more aspects of the boot camps and the community. For me, this is like much more fulfilling because I just can help like many more nature NGOs and nature companies at the same time. So I really hope that we can keep on like creating valuable spaces for people that they really see like, oh my God, this is really valuable for us and it really helps us to scale the impact. And that will just help them so that it's not always me that having to be so much have to do the work myself. So really concretely, if I have to try to improve all the websites of all the different nature NGOs, that would take me like a really, really long time. But if I can help them to, hey, like here you have to be really precise on your copywriting, you need to have the right call to action, make a visual that explains people in 1 second what you do and so forth. If I can share that with them and then they do the changes themselves, I have a much bigger ripple effect. So it's a bit like a conjunction point, right? So if I can, with us, we can create this kind of space where they can get all these kind of different insights that will allow them to get more attention, get more donation, get more sales, whatever, so that they can reinvest that money into the impact, then that will have much bigger ripple effects than if it's just always me doing the one-to-one work. So I think this is like really the big plan, to double down on the solutions where we can just help more people. And in the long run, especially the bringing money into the space, this is like the thing. We need to find like different financial arms to bring people with money into the space so that they say, like, I really want to invest in this. And I think this is not happening enough. So a big focus next year and the coming years will be like, okay, how can we do that?
And okay, so let's imagine that a member of our audience is listening to this, and they are one of these potential young inspired person. Well, I keep saying young. Anybody out there, I'm sure.
Anybody, exactly. There's no age limit whenever
Yeah,
you
of course, of
want to,
course. We're not ageist here. Yes. So let's say someone's out there listening to this, they're inspired, they've got an idea. How can they use Wildya to make their, what you're talking about the boot camp, but breaking down perhaps sort of the steps a little bit further in
Yeah.
terms of the boot camp itself.
Yeah.
How might the process look for them if they embark using this toolkit, your boot camp, and what could they expect?
Yeah, like even earlier, what we want to do is always like, okay, so our social media presence is mostly about like educating more people about like, okay, there's a problem right now, like we're losing nature, and that's like we are part of nature, so we are losing. So that's not good. Here are a couple of solutions, and these are people that inspire you and so forth. So social media is more of like, you know how it is, like it's very short and so forth. You can't really go into detail. Then we provide like a lot of free tools. So we provide a blog, we provide a newsletter, we provide like free tools that we created, for example, in AI that can help people to come up with an idea for a nature company or for a nature NGO, personalized on their skill sets, personalized on their interest and so forth. And that just takes like 15 minutes. And so we create all these kind of free tools because we know there's not that much money in that space. And people that are kind of want to do something with nature, they often we realized that they often also have a bit like of a budget challenge. So we said like, okay, first level, there needs to be tons of free stuff. So if people go on our website, wildya.earth, they find, first of all, tons of like free stuff. I'm always like, give. And if people like, then, hey, have a look at whatever we are building and maybe that's for you. And then, of course, there needs to be some money exchanged because I need to pay my food and my rent too. So that's, I would say, the next level. Have a look at all the free stuff that we do. The next level, I would say, is a bit like the community, because in the end, it doesn't come with the same price point as a bootcamp. So in the community, we have like weekly events and everything. And so in the end, have a look at there. We've really built this entire community for people that want to build or that are building in that space. So it's really for the people that are building nature ventures or that want to support them. And then I would say like, okay, afterwards, after you're kind of part of the community, then the boot camp I think is a really good way. If you want to start in nature venture, then I think the boot camp is the right thing. If you're already in the scaling phase, then right now we don't have a boot camp or something like this. Then you would right now need to work on a one-to-one level with us. If you're young, I can even share with you like, is this okay if I share quickly like the steps that I would take? Even if you don't do the
Absolutely.
bootcamp, at least you know a bit like what
Yes.
you do. If you're like right now a young person or like anybody that wants to create like a nature venture, there's basically 6 major components that you need to hit one by one, we think. And so these are the parts of the 8 weeks. The first one is you need to really understand your product and what you want to do. Product, not in terms of like, hey, you need to sell physical shoes. No, but everything that you build is sort of a product. Even if you restore corals, you have a certain product because you want to restore corals, but the money needs to come from somewhere, you know? So you need to find the vehicle, okay, what could that product, so to say, look like that allows you to do that work? Because we're living in a capitalistic society. So yeah. So the first thing that you need to really figure out is like, which pain point do I solve for somebody? It can be government, can be citizens, can be corporates, but you need to find somebody that has a pain, because polar bears are cute is definitely not a pain that works enough. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this mess because there's so many animals that are cute. If cuteness would be a factor, we would have flourishing nature. That's not the factor. The factor is pain. So there needs to be really tangible pain for people, and pain can be status, can be, you know, there can be so many different things, but there needs to be pain. The second thing that you need to kind of figure out a bit is about like, you are the engine behind all of this. If you're starting alone, even if you start with 3 or 5 of your friends, you guys are like the engine behind this entire venture. So take care of yourself, because this is not going to be something, you're not going to solve the biodiversity crisis in 6 weeks. So take care of yourself. This is going to be a long journey. I think this is like step number 2, a bit like getting into the mindset, hey, this is not going to be something that I'm going to do 6 months. This is going to maybe require my lifetime. The third step I would say is like, we created a model, it's called the Nature Positive Business Model Canvas. Basically, really in a nutshell, you need to figure out what's your model, your business model, where you can say like, okay, I need this and this skills. I need to have these and these partners. I need to do these kind of activities. These are kind of my cost structure. This is how I can kind of pay my rent. You need to think about this a bit. It doesn't need to be like over 6 months you're thinking and figuring that out. No, this takes you maybe 15 minutes, half an hour, an hour. But you need to figure out a bit like, okay, how can you go and build this and practice? And you need to have a bit of theory first. Then, as soon as you have this internal clarity, you need to package it so that other people understand it. Because so far, everything just happened in your head, you know? And so now you need to pitch it. And it's nice if your mom or your father or your best friend is saying, this is great, but this is not a real good test. So package it in a way that really other people can understand it and that they can get excited about this and that they can support you. Only if they understand, they can say like, hey, I know this friend Jack, you know, and Jack has, this is going on, and I should put them in touch with Jack. This can't happen if they don't understand what you're doing. So you need to package it. As soon as you did the packaging, now it's time to go like, hey guys, I built this, and you need to promote yourself. Again, NGO or company, doesn't matter. Everybody needs to do marketing because people have a very short attention span nowadays. So you need to capture their attention, because only if they are aware of you and of the problem, they can help you to solve it. So you need to grab their attention. And last but not least, it's nice as you have their attention, but there needs to be some sort of funding. So either they need to invest into you, donate, sales, whatever it might be, but you need to capture that attention and kind of transform it into conversion. So in these kind of steps, we think like if you tackle those first and you blend out all the different other stuff, the other stuff is mostly noise. These are really like the things you can focus on. And a lot of people think like, this is going to require me, you know, they listen to this and they think like, oh my God, this is going to require me 3 years as well. No, like if you just like focus, then in the end you can start whatever you want to start in the nature space. You can start this even on the weekends if you want to. Not in the same perfection, but like start. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Make that first step. Okay, so finally, Wildya, what would be your final message for people out there?
The first message I would say, like, just like spend a bit more time in nature. I think we, even folks in the nature space, we don't spend enough time in nature because we want to protect it and restore it.
Yeah, I'm not
I'd
actually
say
in the jungle, unfortunately. Yeah.
exactly you
Sorry
you
to, yeah. Sorry to the big reveal.
exactly you managed it. You're living the dream. Um, no, but I think like one is really like actually spending more time in nature ourselves, because I think there's tons of like lessons that we can learn. And even if it's just like 5 minutes, then it's 5 minutes. But like try to make it a daily habit to spend some time in nature. That's number one. And the number two is like to go as fast as you possibly can to taking action. Doesn't matter if it's like, hey, I'm gonna not eat meat one day out of the week. Or it can be something like, I try to avoid like plastic in my shampoo or whatever. But like start, even if it's the tiny, if it feels ridiculous, then it's actually you're on a good path. But start with a ridiculously small step, and then take it step by step and grow your impact. People always think like, oh my God, now I listen to Oliver or something, and now I need to quit my job tomorrow and start my own nature venture. No, like just like start with whatever is realistic to you, something that you can actually stick to, but take action, because we all have agency. There's nobody really sitting on the sidelines. We're all affected by it. We want a stable climate. We want healthy water. We want food. We want our medicine. And we want to live with a world that is not just full of cars and airplanes, but also like full of like birds and elephant seals and elephants and co. So you have skin in the game. So, take small actions towards creating something better.
Wonderful. Finally, Oliver, where can people find you to get involved and support your work?
Yeah, so our website is wildya.earth. So that's WILDYA.EARTH. Always struggle. Like if there's none native speakers, always like, and yeah, if you're type on LinkedIn, Oliver Dauret, that's DAUERT, then you will find out about our work.
Oliver, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, Jack.